Hello, hello. There we are. It is already July. I missed last month somehow. I can't even remember the reason, but here I am. I'm back. Did you miss me? No one? Okay, all right.
I did.
It was just the delay on the line.
It was awkward, right? It was awkward.
Right. Yeah.
Figured it's rhetorical. Of course we missed you.
Sure, of course. Yeah, but now we're missing another person. We're missing Sean, who had a clash in his schedule. He said he might be able to join us before the end, so maybe he pops up still. Who knows? Brandon, what's up? What's up in your life? You said you had a busy morning. Are you actually working? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah. So as most of you know, I joined AWS a couple months ago, and I mean, not unlike the team I worked on at Microsoft, most of my team is remote. We're all scattered around the world. But because most of my team's in Europe, I guess Jay and I are the only ones not in Europe on this call too. But yeah,
taking over.
I've got early morning meetings, which is interesting because like at Microsoft, the headquarters are in Seattle, well, Redmond. So time zones kind of revolve around that, the Pacific time zone. Whereas at AWS, even though the headquarters are also in Seattle, it's just early meetings for us on the West Coast at 7 a.m. and they don't stop till now. So,
yep,
good day.
Yeah, it's nice to have the remote work stuff, but time zones is still a pain in the neck sometimes. I definitely have that as well. But oh well, we can't complain. We have great jobs and we love what we do. So that is part of the job, I guess. Speaking of which, I'm not gonna follow the order here. I'm just gonna go random. Kim, you just switched time zone just to make it easier.
I did, and I've got exactly the opposite problem in that I have no meetings during the day and then just like meetings from 5 p.m. through to midnight. So, but like you say, can't complain. I'm living in a nice place, so that's been good, and the weather's been great. So yeah, everything's cool in Switzerland at the moment. Sunflowers are coming up.
Yes, cool. I imagine. I mean, you're still to the south and to the east, so I imagine there's still a difference in weather, but globally we're kind of the same. The weather has been pretty good here. Did you get anything from the storm, Kim? Yesterday we had the storm coming over here. Wind blowing, rain. No, all right.
No, it was just beautiful. It's beautiful.
No,
sorry.
It's just all right. Sorry you didn't have any trouble and insurance things. Okay, Vlad, how have you been?
Yeah, I'm good. So I try to get best from this summer. So it's most of the time this summer I spend on garden because let's say it's safer there. Yeah, and now it's a raspberry. It's a berry season, so mostly berries, some cherries, raspberries, mulberry, whatever currently is growing. So it's full of vitamins this year.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think you shared something in the we have. I mentioned it before. We have this chat obviously with the people here, and you shared some things growing in your garden, which is really amazing. Like especially, I think it's kind of like a joke for a lot of programmers. Like, oh, this is too complicated. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to be a farmer or something, right? And it's not that easy. I've tried it. Well, not really being a farmer, but trying growing stuff. It's hard, man. And you're just doing it, which is really amazing. And that leaves us with Jay. How have you been? You're getting up early again. I can just see it, unless you have, I don't know, have paper in front of your window just to fool us. Otherwise, it's still dark where you are.
Yeah, still dark over here, but it's summertime. Is bright until the late night. Yeah. So busy days to me. Super busy at work. I guess you all are, and super busy on weekends, spending time with my wife and a kid. It's summertime. Kids love to go around and play. Doing great though. Great. Good to be busy.
You have one kid?
One kid.
How old?
One boy. He just turned 3 years from this May.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I have one 5 and 3, so I can totally relate what you're going through. That's amazing. And today is a very special day because if you are a Microsoft fan, which the chances are that you are, you probably opened your Twitter feed and you can't get past the fact that all the Microsoft MVPs renewed or not. My feed is totally broken. It's just the same picture with another face on it over and over and over again. Yay, I've been renewed, which is really great. So congratulations to all of you who might be watching this. So yeah, there's that. We can do great. Now let's talk. Oh yes, Kid and Brandon are going nuts. All right. So guess it's time to talk about some stuff that people are actually here for. .NET MAUI Community Toolkit. And let's just start. I'm talking anyways. I'm just gonna roll over into the announcements, and I've done a couple of releases. I went a little nuts. I went a little overboard of the Community Toolkit MAUI maps. So we released that. By the way, the notes are all public. You can go to our wiki. I'm sure Brandon is going to paste the link in the chat right now so you can follow along. You can see him do it. And we have the community Toolkit MAUI maps because there is the whole story of like we had Xamarin Forms maps, which is the maps implementation for iOS, Android, Windows. And now we have the same thing, obviously, for .NET MAUI. But there's a problem. We have it for iOS, Android, but there is no maps control for Windows. And that's a problem, right? Because .NET MAUI tries to implement everything that is supposed to look like and feel and do the things that are on the platform, but there's no control on Windows. We're not really looking forward to implementing our own controls as the .NET MAUI team like that and maintaining that. So as kind of like to offer you a solution, we now have this maps control in the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit. So still official, but just a little less. And it's based on a web view that loads Bing Maps, right? So we kind of have the same experience, and we're doing all the hard stuff for you, so we still have this amazing control. So we released the first version. Everyone was happy. People were going out on the streets. Yay, got the MAUI Maps Community Toolkit. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. So I tried a couple of things out, and we were still missing a couple of things. So we did more and more. So this is version 1 3 weeks ago. Then came version 1.0.1. 2 weeks ago, where we fixed a little thing with the coordinates because I noticed that the coordinates weren't really showing up on the the right places with pins and all of that and clicks that you were doing. So I fixed that, and then right after I was on a roll, and I was like, "Oh my god!" 2 weeks ago, fixed another bug, just released it because while sitting on it, if we could just release it right away. So I think this is what like 1 day apart or something, and we already had a new version where. What was this about again? So yeah, also something with coordinates. So it doesn't really matter. This is just stuff that should just work. So I decided to just release them right away. And then I think last week somewhere, not too long ago, 3 days ago, not even a week ago, I also there was an issue with if you were clicking somewhere on the map that wasn't really working, which is working in the other variants, right, like iOS and Android. So I figured out why that was, made it work, and released that as well. That's how we roll. So Windows Maps, I think it's pretty complete right now with everything that Big Brother does for iOS and Android as well. So I think it should be pretty solid. But of course, if you're using it, if you are finding something, please let us know and we'll look into it. Now my voice is giving it. So I'll pass it off to Brandon, who has a lot of stuff to talk about with elections and more maintainers and what's going on.
Yeah. So this is really exciting and brand new. But what we're going to be doing going forward is yearly elections. So we'll say, long story short, every year in July, we're going to open up elections. If you want to join the team as a core maintainer for the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit, you can nominate yourself, the community votes, and then next month at our August stand-up, we will finalize the votes. So basically, whoever has the most votes this time in the first Thursday of August when we do our stand-up, you'll join the team. And actually, this year we're looking for 3 new maintainers. And so here's the actual details. So let me drop this in the comments. But long story short, we're doing this on the GitHub repo in the discussions, and you can read all this, or if you want to nominate yourself, just leave a comment here. So what we're asking folks to do is to do a self-nomination, and kind of similar to if anybody's ever done the Stack Overflow moderator elections, that's kind of where I got the idea and the inspiration behind this, is that you'll self-nominate. You'll include some details about yourself. We've got some suggested bullet points here, like how much have you done in the open source community, how much you've done specifically for the community toolkit or Xamarin community toolkit. Proficiency in other languages is a huge plus, especially as me, the ignorant American who only speaks English, been carried by this awesome team who, pretty sure everybody else speaks multiple languages here except for me. So that'll be a huge plus because we are a global community. That being said, everything we do is in English, but we can help resolve issues and work with community members who maybe aren't fluent if we cover additional languages. So huge plus if you speak additional languages. And then also, personality traits in general. I just stole these straight from Stack Overflow's moderator elections, is to be patient and fair, lead by example, show respect. Everything you expect from the Community Toolkit team, right? So for voting, as the nominations come in, I highly recommend everybody subscribes to this. So you can come in, click the subscribe button. You'll get a notification every time a new self-nomination comes in. And as you read through the self-nomination, if you like it, give them an upvote. This little upvote button will appear right next to that comment. And what we'll do is at the end of this election, we're looking for 3 more core maintainers. As we mentioned previously, Pedro is graduating. He's moving on. We miss you already, Pedro. He's still kind of around though. We see him jump in and pull request comments. He can't resist. But yeah, we want a backfill for Pedro, and then 2 more. We've got, well, as probably a lot of you've noticed, more bug reports than we can fix are coming in faster than we can handle them. So we'll take as much help as we can get. So top 3 vote getters this time next month at the August Standup will be joining the team. So nominate yourself, share this with your friends, post it on Twitter, share it on Reddit, share it on Facebook, anywhere where you think folks might be interested in joining the team. And we can't wait to have you. We can't wait to have some more support on the team. Whoops. Hey, there's all of us. Have some more support on the team. Get some better velocity going on the bug fixes. Oh gosh, bug fixes especially. So share it around. Let us know what you think. Nominate yourself, and make sure to vote for who you think would be the best maintainer to join us.
Can we recommend or nominate someone? Suggest someone in this list, or is up to people?
That's a good question. I mean, I kind of assume if you're going to be nominating yourself to join, that you would have the GitHub account and be able to post it. I guess that's possible. I mean, this is the first year, so we're still kind of figuring it out, right? But yeah, we'll just have to be super sure, because the name of the nomination will be different than the person who posted it. But actually, you know what? Now I think about it, maybe we don't allow that, just because, like, what if I nominate somebody and they win and they don't actually want to do it? That's a good question, though. But yeah, I think for now, if a nomination comes in, we'll just treat it as the name who's been nominated, and then maybe we can reach out to that person on the side and just verify, like, hey, you're winning the election right now. That somebody else nominated you for. You're cool with joining, right?
Yeah, I think whenever that happens, we do need to kind of make sure that that person wants to do it, because else we'll end up like, hey, we have a winner. Do you want to do it? No. Okay, we can start over and still have no one. I don't think it will happen anytime soon, but I guess it will be more a suggestion than a nomination at that point, right? Like, hey, I think this person would be a good fit. Something like that. All right.
And I guess
cool,
you could always tag somebody,
Yeah, absolutely.
At Gerald, I think you'd be great for this.
Yep. I don't know who at Gerald is, but maybe he was up for it.
that handle always gets me, man.
Yeah,
so
I know.
At G. Where is he?
I've been on the fence for basically forever. Like, should I change it to be more recognizable, or has anyone grown used to it? But anyway, sidetrack. So yeah, amazing. If you have comments on this process, as with anything, please let us know. Or what we'd rather have more is you nominate yourself, go through this thing, and join us in this team, in this stand-up, and do amazing things together. What are you waiting for? Do it now. Okay, maybe at the end of stand. Jay, so you have the 5 minutes of Tizen fame. Basically, that's what's going on. So we've been talking about how to set up your Tizen environment. What even is Tizen? And now, where to launch the Tizen app? Tell me. What's
Okay,
this about?
all right. Let me share my screen here. Can you see it now? No?
There it is.
Oh, there you go now. Yes. All right. Let's see. All right, 5 minutes of Tizen is back. I was absent on the last stand-up. Sorry for that. I just missed the stand-up one time and feel like it's been like years. Anyhow, super simple contents for today. If anyone remembers, we talked about the development environment to start developing Tizen. So like last time, like you need 3 things in your hands and everything. And today, then I would like to talk about like where to launch the application. So first up, the emulator, the easiest target you can get. So we have the TV and mobile. I think Samsung Smart TV is the first target you can think of, Tizen. So we have the emulator for that. And we now have the actual, we don't have the actual mobile device anymore, but we still have the emulator in that profile, like a legacy. But it's like handy emulator. You can modify the resolution, or it doesn't have any policy limitation compared to TV. So you can access that pretty much everything on the mobile emulator. So it is the comfortable one you can play with, I can tell. And for the last, IoT is getting more important on Tizen because I expect we will see more smart consumer electronics devices in the future. So I expect we can start using the IoT emulator from this year, maybe October, November, when the next Tizen 8.0 platform is released. So I expect coming for that. And for the last, IoT is and for the actual device, let's go through the TV finally. Here, how to set up the TV, how to connect TV to your video studio. Here's the TV. The UI look could be a bit different, depends on which year of TV you have. You would always have this apps menu here on the bottom of your TV. And in the apps menu, if you enter the number from 1 to 5, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the developer menu would pop up. Developer pop-up will show. So here you can turn the developer mode on and enter the host PC IP here, over here. It could be a little hard if you use the remote control. So here you turn on the developer mode on, enter the PC IP you want to connect to, that it will say reboot. And if you reboot, then boom, now you have the developer mode. You can see the developer mode next to the apps menu. And if you install the Tizen SDK on your PC, then you would have device manager installed. So click those red buttons to add a new device and enter the TV IP address. Here, put the name and the TV IP address here. And then you'll see the device is added here. So now toggle the connection button to on. Then now you can see the TV device is connected to your video studio. Sorry, I don't have the real TV image right here. Sorry for that. But now, as this TV target is connected to your video studio, now you can play with Community Toolkit and MAUI on your actual TV. And you know what to do from here. And we use Raspberry Pi for IoT development. So just in case anyone is interested, I put the link how to flash Titan image to Raspberry Pi, so you can go through it. And I saw Vlad introduce the Samsung Remote Test Lab on the last stand-up. Thanks, Vlad. There's no Samsung TV at the moment in the test lab, so I just keep praying for the TV on the remote test lab. And last, APIs. The APIs, what you can use. You can use MAUI and a Community Toolkit family, markup, MVVM, and everything, and other libraries. And then we have the library called TitanFX. This is the kind of packs of the C# device APIs for Titan platform. So we have the repo for that. It says which NuGet you can use, depends on which platform you would like to develop. So you can go to the API reference from here. So this is the API reference. If you want to check the Titan 8.0, which is the coming up platform, then you can see reference from here. So we have a bunch of like multimedia maps and everything, like systems. You can check out the details and you know the docs. So I think now we all are ready to develop from now. And that was the 5 minutes of Titan for today.
That is great. That's great. Yeah, I think just before we started, Brandon, you said like, "Hey, we're going to keep doing this until Jay says no more. I've had enough." I think it's super interesting just to look over the fence and see what's there. But yeah, I mean, at some point maybe we've covered like a lot of it. But as long as you're happy to do it, Jay, I think here in the chat, George is here, our number one fan, George, saying thanks. So I think he's enjoying it as well. So thank you so much for putting this together. As long as you can, please keep doing it. All right, then moving over.
Very cool.
PRs, Kim, yes, also very cool. Thank you so much. Moving over to PRs, Vlad. Proposals first. I'm skipping over a whole entire section. Proposals first, Vlad. .NET Preview Beta NuGet. So I was looking at that, and apparently people are already trying out our stuff with the new .NET 8 previews, because if you're not aware, we're busy, and with we in this context, I'm talking about the .NET MAUI and Microsoft in general, we're pushing out .NET preview versions because we're launching the final version in November, and that also means a new final version of .NET MAUI. So people are already trying out the .NET 8 previews that are out right now with the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit, and apparently it's not working. Vlad, what's going on?
Yeah, as for this one, and probably you also know that just when we released .NET MAUI, when we released Community Toolkit maps, and the first person who created the issue was why it doesn't work with .NET 8. Yeah, and for that moment of time, we just closed it because we didn't support it. It was not expected for our Nugget package. So currently we received a new request, a new proposal that people asked us to release a preview version of our Community Toolkit package that also target .NET 8. I think technically it's possible just to extend the list of our target frameworks, but who knows how it will work with the preview version of .NET MAUI, so we may receive some unexpected changes, or it will require us to add and maintain two different .NET versions. Probably it's a bit harder for us. So the main question, what should we do with it? Should we just say that, well, wait for November and we'll do our best by that moment of time, or we can just make some kind of nightly package with .NET 8? Maybe it will be a better solution, or just satisfy this person and just do ask Gerald to release a .NET 8 package.
Thanks, Gerald. All right, well, I guess Gerald's got this.
I vote for that one.
Yeah, that was my concern too, Vlad. It's just where's our time best spent? And my vote is to be focusing on bug fixes and new features, because we will support .NET 8. just for the record, we'll have same day support for .NET 8. It will be a breaking change, like you can see here. The current version of .NET MAUI doesn't work on .NET 8, so yeah, expect a new major version release from us same day, just like we did last year for .NET 7. But yeah, the question here is, do we spend the time to fix bugs and push features, or do we release .NET 8? I personally think if we have to choose between the two, obviously if somebody wants to jump in and say, I'll do it all, I'll more than welcome you. But yeah, I think right now we are a little constrained on bandwidth, or at least I am. I'll speak for myself. And maybe one of the new maintainers could do it after the elections are over. But yeah, do we have a volunteer to do this? I think it's a great idea, and something that if we were working for Microsoft and getting paid to do this, absolutely we should. But I don't know if we have the bandwidth right now in the team.
Well, as for me, I would say that I understand as a simplest solution just to add the new frameworks, and it just works. If it's that probably it will be easier for us to just implement it. If no, then probably we should at least wait for the release candidate to see how it works, because preview version may be unstable and some changes maybe from version 5 to version 6, and we will need just to release again and again if there are any breaking changes between previews. So probably it shouldn't probably happen until at least release candidate 1. And then if it works, that most likely then we will just make a preview version that will be just a base step for us to see how it works. With .NET 8, make sure that everything works as expected, and by November we will just release as usual release version.
Yeah, is there a time, maybe Gerald, when they have no more breaking changes at RC1, when they stop changing the surface area, or?
Yeah, I think RC1 should be. I think we're getting. Yeah, I think the timeline is that I'm trying to think of. Can I say these things? I'm not really sure, but I think the RC, like if you look at previous versions, the RC1 is not really far from us. I think there's like one preview that's coming out, and then I mean. November is coming. It sounds maybe weird to some people, but November is coming pretty quickly, right? Like we're going to the summer, things are slowing down a little bit. So I think we have like 1 or maybe 2 previews, and then because we usually also have like RC1, 2, and 3, right? So that's another 3 months. And with RCs, kind of like the rule should be, unless we're really finding weird stuff, that should like Kim says, like, hey, that should be the surface. Everything is set. And we're just doing bug fixes, right? So at that time, we should kind of like be safe to assume that nothing major is going to change, and maybe we can start looking into doing this. Yeah, that kind of sucks that we're dependent on another product, obviously. Yeah, it's an interesting question. Like, we can fix it for this one, but how are we then going to go about the next one? Basically, do we fold it all into one pipeline? Do we get a new one? There's a bunch of infrastructure, whether you go left or right, to basically stamp this up, because you have to install the newest .NET 8 preview. You have to build upon that. Blah blah blah. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff to do, but maybe that's also like. The pattern is going to be the same, right? So next year, by this time, is going to be .NET 9, or basically whenever .NET 8 is out. So in December, maybe not December, in January, you have .NET 9 that they're going to work on. And you'll have the same thing, right? So once you set this up once, it should be relatively easy to maintain if we set all the things up. The question is, how many people are we going to make happy with that? Or are they only going to look at it whenever .NET 8 is out and we just update our pipeline by then, fix the things, and maybe a month later at the latest we'll have a .NET MAUI Community Toolkit version that works with .NET 8.
Well, we can say it definitely will happen this autumn. So just wait for it.
Oh, Vlad just said it. He's going to do it.
Yeah,
No,
I mean, that's
definitely.
good. It's a good point, too, because with .NET 8, we'll see where it lands, but I know the MAUI team's been experimenting with moving the Microsoft MAUI controls namespace into a NuGet package, and I'd love for us to leverage that, because right now we are dependent against the version of .NET MAUI, but unless you read our release notes, you might not know that. And we've had some issues pop up where somebody's like, hey, the app's crashing. What's going on? And we're like, what version are you using? We're like, oh, you need to update your .NET MAUI version to match our .NET MAUI version. That's been a pain for library maintainers in general with workload, or because of workload. So yeah, we'll also be leveraging that new NuGet package format if that is available. So then we can pin Community Toolkit to specific version of .NET MAUI. But yeah, maybe what we do is, since we're holding the elections, put this in your bio for the elections for your nomination. And obviously if this gets if that community member gets a ton of upvotes, then we can prioritize this and they can jump in as a new maintainer and this would be a first project. But yeah, I mean, I do see a world where we add another pipeline to our pipeline that basically does the same thing, but for the preview versions, and we just keep it. So whether there's a preview version of .NET available or not, it'll always just run the same code installing the latest preview. And we'll just always have a preview feed. But where it would probably get tricky is promoting that to NuGet. So like if we publish that to NuGet, well, now we're committing to a version number, and then we can't have any breaking changes until that new version number. So I don't know if we'd go as far to publish it to NuGet, but we could certainly have. We already do have nightly builds of our NuGet versions, so I don't see why we couldn't do nightly builds of a preview. But yeah, sounds like not now. We'll circle back once the release candidate comes out. We'll see what everybody, or how the elections turn out. If maybe one of the new maintainers just loves CI pipelines and can do them in their sleep, they're great. We've got a great excuse. But yeah, it sounds like we'll put this on hold at least until the release candidate comes out. But we will definitely be supporting .NET 8. You'll see it same day, I promise.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's out of the question. We're absolutely going to do that for you in time to enjoy it. Are we going to have previews months ahead? That's maybe that's in the stars. Is that how to say it? But we're gonna have the support absolutely by the time that .NET MAUI Preview 8 comes out. And kind of like the interesting thing is like .NET MAUI 8, let's call it that, is going to have like a ton of bug fixes and some new stuff. And we're still working also on new stuff, but that's not really dependent on the new things that are going to be in .NET 8, right? So it should be, unless there's something really surprising, it should be recompiling against that new version, and we should mostly be good to go. So like Brendan says, we're probably going to have like same-day support or not far behind. And you'll just have all the stuff that you have today for .NET 7, but now working on .NET 8. So there shouldn't be any major surprises there.
Famous last words.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Proposals. Yes. Mobile Windows for desktop apps. So we've talked about this maybe a couple of times, but at least once. So this is actually something that's coming from in Microsoft as well. My good friend Mike, he has a customer actually that's wants the mobile modal window, sorry. And we've talked about this. It's very specific, obviously to Mac OS and Windows, because you have modal on iOS and Android, where you get a window that you can't really get rid of unless you add a button or do the thing. But on desktop apps, you will get an actual separate window that you can move around basically, and you will have 2 windows, right? Because that's what you can do on desktop. So this is going to be very specific to these OSs. And yeah, I think this, you can see this is open since December. So we're kind of stuck somewhere between, I guess, like, do we want this? If we want this, how can we implement it? What would be a good way? I think, Vlad, I think you had some opinions about this as well. You added some comments. And I think today, I'm not sure if anyone really saw that. Mike added a kind of like proof of concept, because Mike and I have been talking about this as well. And I said, what you might want to do, whether this is going into the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit or not, you're probably going to have to code this up anyway, right? So what he did is now create a repository with the code, basically what he has in mind, how this could or should work, for us to look at, and we can see, like, hey, is this something that we want to take in, something that's going on? If that's good, then we can take it into the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit. Everyone's happy. If not, we might roll this into some kind of separate plugin or whatnot. So that's kind of like this, where the status is right now. There's a very extensive explanation about all the things, which is good. That's definitely needed in these cases. But Vlad, do you have anything to share here? I think you looked into how it should work or could work.
Yeah, I can show how I implemented it. Let me share my screen. And entire screen. Share. Well, and yeah, how I implemented it. Let's zoom it. So I propose to create a new class called modal window, and it has a content, which is actually what we see on the screen. We may have multiple buttons. For example, for simplicity, I created 2 buttons like submit or OK and cancel, which just close the window, and also some submit content action. So it's an action that happens when we close our dialog. And on Windows, I implemented it as an extension for the window. Let's see how it's called. So we create a new modal window with some generic action with the content, like display on the label, some submit action for simplicity. It's return generic result. For this sample, it's done, and 2 buttons submitted, close. Then we get a parent window. Because it's a modal window, we need to make sure that it's unclickable. I mean the parent window. And we open modal window for that and specifying that window and waiting for the result. So for Windows, it's implemented like this. We just transform our .NET MAUI control to native, to platform control. And for Windows, I chose content dialog. I haven't found a better control for it so far. Maybe I will see how it's implemented in the submission, and then we'll see how it should. Maybe it had a better solution in real dialog. And as a result, we can await our dialog, show it, and depends on a button click, we can choose our action. So if we run this sample, how it works, and like open modal window, it displays this dialog. We cannot click somewhere else, so it's like a real dialog. And depends on the button. When we click submit, it will like show modal window is closed with this result done. Otherwise, on close, we get the result that window is just closed. That's pretty much it. As for Mac Catalyst, it was a probably more complex solution. I will not show how it works, but it's also display window like in navigation controller that has a modal window view. Depends on the size of content, and usually on Mac Catalyst, you in modal window you see in a top left or top right corner some buttons, like probably you mostly see it on iPad, where you can like save button or something like that, cancel. So it's a place where we can put our action buttons, and depends on the action, it can dismiss the control with some result, like cancel or call the action. So it's how I implemented it. And yeah, probably there should be some better solutions. Maybe with iOS 17 there will be even better support for modal windows, because this one is not like for both Windows and Mac Catalyst, it's not a real like modal window how we usually see it on WPF or native Mac OS, like not Mac Catalyst. So we'll see how it will go, and maybe with different implementation. It's just a proposal how I implemented it. Maybe there can be some better solutions, like suggested.
Yeah, I think the main difference is with this and what Mike kind of is proposing is that indeed, like what you say, like Mike has an actual different window that you can, move separately, while what you showed, at least now, I think for Windows, was more like an alert or something, right?
Yeah, it's a content dialog. It's also a native control, but yeah, it's not like a separate window, because for a separate window we just need to use Win API, which is like I don't know, it's an obsolete or not. Ugly. As for me, it looks like a more ugly implementation. Then it's not like we tried to move WPF or WinForms control to WinUI. So it would be actually, I found that for WinUI there is a proposal, open discussion on GitHub to brings Windows, but yeah, it's for now it's an open issue, and it's open more than 1 year. So and for now there is no results. So maybe someday it will be implemented, and it will definitely be the best solution. As for Mac Catalyst, it's also, I haven't found a way to just get access to NS window that is available on macOS. That is why it's some kind of workarounds with UI controllers.
Okay, so I guess we need some more, I don't know, discussion here. I'm pretty sure because it was like 9 hours ago that you didn't really see what Mike did. So maybe if you have some time, glad to look into what he's done. See if that make any sense, and maybe see if you can combine whatever you were doing, what he was doing, and see if we can make progress from there. Basically, does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. I will review that Mike's proposal, and yeah, we'll see how it works. And yeah, write a comment. What is the best?
Thank you. Thanks.
And I feel like, and I'm pretty sure we've had this conversation before, but I'm going to ask the dumb question anyways. Why don't Mac OS and Windows include support for modal pages? Like, as a mobile developer, it feels very obvious, and we use mobile all the time. Is that just not a thing on desktop?
Yeah, it's just not available, probably because Mac Catalyst is just an port of iOS and try to bring it to Mac, and it's not. It's like an intermediate solution probably. And as for WinUI, I think it's pretty new, and yeah, and maybe that is why it doesn't have all controls, all stuff that needs for full desktop development.
That makes more sense.
Yes.
I was thinking maybe it's not a Windows thing, but it's just WinUI is still catching up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess like I think what differentiates the things here is that it's probably available on Windows, right? It's implemented in .NET MAUI, so we have something for it. If it's gonna expect the way that you expect, it's gonna work the way that you expect. I'm not really sure, but what it probably does, assuming that it is implemented, is that it shows a modal window inside the same window, right, on Windows. Say window one more time. And what Mike wants is have a separate window, which is modal. You can't go back to the other one, but you have a separate window. And that's not possible. Anything is possible because you can write your own handlers, blah, blah. But it's not possible right now in an easy kind of .NET MAUI way. So I think that's what this is mostly about.
Yeah, I also played with the different windows, like because .NET MAUI has a multi-window support, but yeah, we need to find a way to make that window like modal. So your parent window should wait for the result from the child window. That is, and also, well, it's probably easier for WinUI because I know how to implement for Windows better. But as for Mac Catalyst, I still had some issues how to implement it, just because of limitation of API that is available for Mac Catalyst.
I wonder, would it make sense to rename it? So yeah, when I hear modal, I picture just like a modal page coming up like we have in our mobile apps, but it wasn't literally until you just said it, Gerald, that I put two and two together and realized this is almost like a pop-up window. So it's like opening another window. We have to figure it out now, but the fact that I was confused and I've read through this proposal before probably means somebody else will get confused if we call it modal, but
actually, modal is a name that's probably familiar for for people who develop for desktop, because on WPF we also have it's called a modal window. It's called a dialog. On macOS, it also has a method called open modal. So probably for those who develop for desktop, it's a familiar for them, just a modal more than like a pop-up or something like that. So yeah, first of all, I think we still need to identify how to implement it the best way, and naming is our second problem. It will be easier to resolve later.
Gotcha. Totally.
Cool. All right, so we have definitely run out of time for the rest of the stuff that we want to do. We've heard Vlad talking for a little bit now, so I'm gonna just very, I'm gonna just really show a little bit more. I'm trying to do multiple things here, and because I want to talk a little bit about the app theme color, because there's a whole story there too. So I won't go into all the things there. This is something that was originally opened on the .NET MAUI repo. Not everyone on the team was really in agreement. Like, hey, should this be something that should be in the .NET MAUI box directly, basically? And then we decided, like, hey, let's just see if we can take it into the toolkit, because it definitely seems very useful. It seems useful to me. And maybe if it picks up momentum and everyone's like, oh yeah, this is amazing, why is this in .NET MAUI? And we hear that enough times, we can convince the rest of the team to be like, hey, okay, yeah, we should take this. So took all the code, put it in the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit in a PR. And I got a couple of comments, which is, of course, why we do PR. So that's amazing. But namely, the comment by Brandon, I didn't understand a single thing. I read words and I was like, I have no clue what you're saying. So, Brandon.
Which one was that?
Yeah, I think the very last one, because I left it at that. I was like, we're going to talk about this at the stand-up. Oh yeah, because that was the thing. Like there's a couple of things moving here, right? So it's basically a bunch of helper things to make it easier to work with colors, and even more so resources. Basically any object which is aware of lighting and darkening. So you can specify different values for lighting and darkening and whenever the appearance goes back and forth, it will load the one color or resource and the other one. And what this change enables you to do is basically also add it to the styles and to your resource dictionaries, so that you don't have to specify each color in your app theme binding. So text color is app theme binding, light, dark, and you have to copy that over and over and over again, right? So you can just define it once in your resource dictionary, and now you can just say with that key that's on screen right now, text primary color, you can just reference that in your text color, and it will switch over automatically. So that will make it much easier. The thing is, as it's written here, basically in the that example, the one that you highlighted right there, it says value is app theme text primary color. So that app theme thing is called, I always mix them up, and someone called me out on it the other day. It is a markup extension, I think, which helps you specify this. So you have the binding, you have resource, you have a couple of things here that you can put in there. This change implements the app theme, but there's also a app theme API in .NET MAUI. So when you start typing this and you don't have the right namespace imported yet for the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit, it's going to say, oh, you definitely mean the one from .NET MAUI, right? So I'm going to import that for you, which is the wrong thing. And that's kind of like where that's the one thing where I'm like not super sure. So ideally, I think we should change that app theme thing, but into what? So basically the problem again is naming is hard. And then Brandon comes in and comes with his comment, which I don't understand.
So was it just about moving it into the core library, that comment?
No, not that one. It was literally like the last one. No, the last one. Other side.
Let's see. If I scroll all the way down.
Yep. Stop this one.
Oh, okay. I totally.
So the only question remains if we want to rename the app theme extension to anything, and then you come with binding base extension.
Yeah, I mean, this was just throwing ideas against the wall, see what sticks. But I was looking at, we're creating a markup extension, like you mentioned, Gerald, and we have a couple in the toolkit. So I was just digging for ideas, and I saw that this markup extension that we've named multi-value converter extension is implementing iMarkup extension, iCommunity Toolkit multi-value converter. So basically it takes the name from the type of the markup extension. And so I just happened to notice that the current apps theme extension implements binding base. So we could rename it to binding base extension. That was the idea. Not saying it's a good idea, but just making observations. I'm also not a XAML guy, so.
I think it loses its meaning.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think you'll use this code anywhere. I don't think you reference app theme extension, the class, anywhere, right? Like markup extensions are more under the hood. Also not a XAML guy.
So that's the only thing, but I think the rest, it works.
I love the idea. Like we have a similar extension in the MAUI markup for C# UIs in that library, and it's been life changing. Like I was able to delete so much code to handle like light theme, dark theme, and you can just replace it with one line of code, which is super, super nice. So let's figure out how to name it and ship it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we'll figure that out somewhere
maybe
soon.
I have a last question about this one. Why it was removed from Xamarin Forms and why we are trying to bring it back again?
Yes, moving on. So this was it's mostly about the mental model not agreeing with what's implemented. So this is called an app theme color, but it's or an app resource or whatnot, but it's under the hood, it's still going to be a binding, right? So at some point there was the decision taking like, hey, we're going to have the app theme bindings, which, from a technical standpoint is 100% correct because it's no color, it's no thing that I want to name it. So that's kind of like where the struggle is. Like some people are like, yeah, okay, so maybe it's not the exact thing that we're naming it, but do our developers really care? I think they care more about that it actually works, and it kind of fits like whatever we're trying to do. So yeah, that's kind of like where the discussion is, and I think it was already changed in forms as well. We also only have app theme bindings and that kind of stuff. So I think this is not in forms anymore as well. It was for a brief period of time. Yeah.
I don't know if this is helpful, but OS theme could maybe be another.
Same problem. I think there is an OS theme in .NET MAUI, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, there's
I kind of thought so too. Okay.
Yeah. Put whatever suggestion you're thinking of, put it in the issue, the PR or whatever, and I'll check if I can make that work. But we'll figure something out. Maybe tomorrow I'll wake up and I'm like, yes, this is the one.
And even
all right.
George in the comments suggested MAUI theme.
MAUI theme. Yeah, I'm not sure if I want to. I mean, yes, it has to do with MAUI. I'm not sure if I want to tie into MAUI that much, though.
We're getting closer. I feel like we're circling it.
So, Brandon, since you're talking a little bit anyway, let's just pop over to the pop-up.
Sure. This one's going to be really quick because I think we talked about this last month in last stand-up, and I think we resolved everything. So really my question was, are we good to go on this? I think I've implemented everybody's review, but the only thing this PR is waiting on is, oh man, well, never mind. I just updated from main now. I introduced a new bug. Well, this morning, the only thing I was waiting on was a review. So I'll check out what's breaking here, but I just want to make sure this PR wasn't blocked and we can move forward with it. If nobody has anything, then that's perfect. And I'll fix that build error and we can merge it this afternoon.
Cool. So do we want to keep going for a little bit? I'm not sure. I'm actually not sure if we are blocking other streams or what we're doing here.
I'm okay staying on. We've gone over a little bit before, but
yeah. So let's just go over the rest a little bit quicker and call it a day after that. At least for me. So Vlad, you have two things. You have a snack bar and a toast. I think this was a PR from someone else.
Yeah, actually, in initial implementation for it was a bit different. For now, I reviewed, and first of all, I would just say a great, huge thank you for this implementer, because he created. If you scroll down, you can see amazing description for this PR with a lot of changes, with the screenshots how it was before, how it's implemented right now, and works, and it's super easy for me to just review how it works, just to see how it's implemented. Yeah, as for now, it's nothing to discuss. It was initially a bit different implementation that required me to put this in discussion. For now, it's implemented, and I will just approve this PR and merge it. So it's just a great implementer, and great thank you for him.
Yeah, Cat's been all over the place. Yeah. I apologize. I haven't even. Let's see. What?
Yeah, actually, he's from
Their real
Japan.
name is Cat.
Yeah, maybe it would be nice if he will just point in our become a core maintainer as well if he want.
Join the team, Cat.
We will extend our list of language knowers with Japanese.
You have to wake up even earlier than Jay. Oh man.
Yeah.
We're not convincing this person, so maybe no, it's great. It's great. You can wake up whenever you want. And you have another one, Vlad, about analyzers?
Yeah. As for MAUI analyzers, well, it's actually adding 3 analyzers, and it's don't see that it has a lot of files. So actually, the suggestion just to make our code a bit even cleaner and add some analyzers for us to that help us to not make stupid mistakes. For example, with disposal. For example, with some other stuff like async implementation that we shouldn't like, where we should like await the method but as you can see, it brings some other suggestions that some of them may be a bit weird and not understandable, I don't know that we have that for exception we need to add iserializable attribute, and it wasn't like it required a bit more reading to understand how it's implemented. Why do we need to add it? So the main question here is, well, first of all, I suggest to add that analyzers, but with some with changing the list of rules that we want to bring and see how it's implemented. And that is my proposal for this one. It will bring us a bit cleaner code, and once I edited, I found like 3 or 4 mistakes that were pretty much, let's see, critical when we incorrectly implement disposal for one class. We have incorrectly implemented async await. We forgot await and just like, yeah.
Uh-oh.
So it, yeah.
Cool. Vlad, could you? This would be a huge favor for me, because just flipping through here, it's tough to figure out what new rules we're adding. So like I see.
Yeah, all that rules added automatically. If you scroll a bit lower, you will find this file. You can see we add package reference for sonar analyzer, XUnit analyzer, and substitute analyzer. So XUnit and substitute are added for our tests, and that ensure that we like all our tests have like assert in the end, and it's not just keep like all tests can be passed without assert. So it's just an analyzer for us to correctly use XUnit and substitute. As for sonar analyzer, it brings all other suggestions like correctly implementation of patterns, correctly implementation for and like suggested using for some methods that have a better performance. For example, they suggest to use like method exist instead of like link implementation for like any or something like that. Yeah, because it just have a better performance. We can use like index instead of link methods.
Yeah, I love it. It's not really even a complaint, but it's more of just laziness. Is that it's tough to review it and to know what new rules we're putting in place. Like, and don't get me wrong, I love analyzers, I love rules, because it'll make the code easier to maintain in the future. So yeah, I was wondering if you could just list out like here's the rules we're putting in place, and then I can go through and review the code much more easily knowing what we're adding, and then if there is a rule that sticks out, we can more easily talk to it than, like you mentioned earlier, we found like adding the serialize. We're like, why is this serializable attribute here? And had to have a whole one-off conversation on it. And it's like, oh yeah, that's weird. I guess we don't need it. But yeah, give a list of the rules, and I think this is definitely good going forward.
Also the problem with this PR that and you mentioned that it brings some breaking changes because like we just need it. For example, for naming. Also for some other stuff we was just incorrectly implemented or some misspelled something. So that is why it brought some breaking changes. Some of them are reverted, but still I suggest to bring them just to make sure that maybe with the .NET 8 it will be a great enhancement for us.
Cool. Yeah, we could always do that too. We could always wait for the .NET 8 release to merge this in. The only question I have is this, let's see, will this generate compiler errors for things we definitely don't want, so that like the CI/CD pipeline picks it up when anybody from the community opens a pull request?
Yeah, it's how it's implemented. It brings compile errors. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
Great. So I think the app theme color is both under discussions and PR. So I think we talked about that one. Then Brandon, I still owe you the thing on the relative binding source. So unless you have uncovered some things, we can skip that one, I guess. And you can talk about the add support for C# hard reload.
Yeah. Figure I'll just keep poking you, Gerald, until we figure that one
do
out.
That.
It's not an urgent one, but this one is. So C# hot reload. This is in the Maui markup library, by the way. But yeah, I've recently-ish learned that there's extra stuff you got to do to support C# hot reload if you're a library developer, which is a little annoying as a library developer because it's more work for me. But I had a good meeting with some folks like Brett Johnson on the Microsoft engineering team about how to best implement it. And this is what we've figured out. So the good news is if you add, well, let's start with the bad news. The way things work today, if you're using the Maui markup library and you click the hot reload button, you'll more than likely get a little pop-up dialog that says, we can't do hot reload. Would you like to edit and continue or rebuild? So if you just add in our library, we break C# hot reload for you, which is terrible. I don't want to be in that situation. I feel bad. Didn't realize that. But with this, if you just, once we merge this in and you update your NuGet package, C# hot reload will just work. So you can click the C# hot reload button and all the code will be regenerated in the background. Now the downside is .NET MAUI doesn't have, we'll say, I'll just call it full support for C# hot reload baked in to where .NET MAUI doesn't know that the code changed underneath it. So when you click the hot reload button, Visual Studio will do the work. It'll replace the code underneath, but your UI that's on display will still look exactly the same because something needs to tell .NET MAUI to invalidate the layout or reload the page or update the UI. So hopefully one day we'll get that baked in. But for now, actually, I think I have it in the description here. Yeah, so for now, what we're offering is I've created this interface called Community Toolkit Hot Reload Handler. And this is where you can implement how you want to handle when that hot reload button's tapped. And really, again, what I mean here is how do you want to programmatically tell your UI to update anytime you click the button. So I am admittedly being a little lazy on this and deferring it to the developer community. I've got an example implementation where you'll check to see if the type that changed is a page. And then if you're using shell, then you can tell it to like navigate to that page, for example. So this is a way to like reload the page that you're looking at. But if you're not using shell, then this won't work. And if you're using modal pages, that uses a different navigation stack than your typical navigation page. So there's all sorts of scenarios where we can't figure out 100% of those to cover. So what you'll do is you'll implement Community Toolkit Hot Reload Handler, and then you can add in your custom code here. We'll include in the docs the examples that I've been able to generate and come up with for the scenarios I've seen in my apps, open source apps that I've seen in the community. But you'll want to customize this a little bit for your app. And then when you click the hot reload button, you'll see your UI change. So not only will Visual Studio update the code underneath, your UI will change as well. And the only other thing you have to do is add in this to your builder services. So you add in as a singleton your implementation of iCommunity Toolkit hot reload handler, and then our library, Maui Markup, will make sure that we run the code you've written. And just for prosperity's sake, here's a little example of me changing the color to green from blue. So it works. This initial version, like I said, if you want to see the UI update, as soon as you click the button, you'll have to do a little bit of work. Or if you're lazy like me, you could just navigate away from the page and then navigate back to the page that you did the hot reload change on. So if you change the color to green, you can navigate back, navigate forward. Because the code underneath has been updated, when that page loads again, it'll be hot reloaded for all intents and purposes. So this is coming. It's actually, I can probably take it out of draft now. Might as well. Oh no, it's not down here. I almost closed it. Don't close it. I don't know where the button is, but this zoom in. Well, take it. I'll bring it on draft, and yeah, this will be included in our next release unless somebody comes along and tells us a reason not to. So stay tuned for this. This is super exciting, and yeah, maybe someday we'll get the .NET MAUI engineering team will open up some hooks underneath, so we could just say we could trigger that hot reload for you without you having to write any extra code. So if nothing else, we're going to stop breaking hot reload for you, and that's exciting.
Yeah, that will be really cool. I think that will be super helpful. This is such a powerful tool, and to be honest, I'm not really familiar with this area. It is definitely unfortunate that you have to do something as a library maintainer. On the other hand, it's also cool that you can. So, if you're watching this, if you are a library maintainer, get in touch with Brandon because he doesn't have enough to do already. And he'll explain
so
to
much
you
free
how.
time.
Yeah, so much free time.
Yeah,
no, you can at least go through this code, right? So.
Yeah, and this line of code is really the key. So you need to add this attribute, this system reflection metadata update handler. If you have that included in your library, you will no longer be breaking C# hot reload for folks. And it's a little janky because there's methods included that you just have to manually add, like this static void update application is triggered anytime hot reload's triggered. But there's no interface. So you can see here, like, there's not an metadata update handler that I can implement that tells me all the methods that are included. So there's a lot of this stuff is buried. This was my feedback to the team was none of this is documented. So step one, let's get it documented. Step two, let's get some hooks deeper into .NET MAUI that this will just work for all intents and purposes out of the box. But yeah, if you are a library maintainer, this is the secret line of code. And then this is a method that will fire anytime hot reload's happening. And all I'm doing is essentially triggering an event to fire underneath the hood. And I'll handle that and merge it in with your interface implementation. So stay tuned. This is coming down the pipe.
Will we see the same changes in Community Toolkit library? Do we need it there?
That's a good question. I don't know. I know this problem existed in the Maui Markup library because there's folks in the community have opened some discussions on it. Before then, I didn't even realize we had broken it. I don't know. Have we seen any discussions or issues reported on the Community Toolkit.Maui library?
We had issue with a pop-up that doesn't work with a hot reload. So
XAML hot reload or C# hot reload? Those also require different implementations.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably it was like XAML implementation, XAML hot reload the issue. Actually, hot reload didn't work for pop-up at all. So if this or similar PR will solve that issue, it would be awesome.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I tell you what, let's get this merged into the Maui Markup. We can let it bake for a little bit, and then after a couple weeks, assuming we don't get any complaints or bug reports, then yeah, I mean, we could bring a similar implementation over to the Maui library. Sure. I'm basically an expert in it now, so.
Exactly. Expert in analyzers, hot reload, you name it. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. No real discussions. George delivered some input while we were going, so that's really good. We're not going to go into it, but I saw Oh, can you decorate the method as debug only? What's that?
That's exactly what we did, George. So great idea. And yes,
Boom.
we will, and we shall.
Already done. Yes, check.
Yeah, you won't get
and I saw
any of this code bogging up your release store apps.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely should do that. While we were talking about this, and we're not going to talk about it now, Matt Lacey, also a very great member in the community, already delivered some input on the whole thing that we talked about earlier, the elections and stuff. He had some input on that. Unfortunately, he didn't nominate himself, but he had some questions around that. So great to get some discussion going there. Maybe we'll get into it next month. We'll see how that goes. Everyone that's going on vacation, have a nice holiday. If not, if you are, just make sure that you'll be back on the first Thursday of August, because that's when we will be here, and we'll be seeing you then. Thank you so much for joining us on the stream, and we'll see you next month.